Richard, then let's start. We have started the recording.
Yes. So very good evening to all. This is monsoon season, and I hope we will get required rain. Don't forget to enjoy this rain, but safely. I am Vijay Nanja and extremely excited to welcome you all to yet another exciting session. Uh, this artificial intelligence, or we call it AI, has permeated all aspects of our life, or you say business. It's a daily affair now, and it has also revolutionized cybersecurity for defenders, but also for attackers. It is equally revolutionized. This time, let's embark the journey to safeguard ourselves against the weaponization of AI. For the same, let me take the privilege to introduce the industry veteran and our esteemed speakers for today's session, Mr. Mahendra Upadhyay, industry thought leader and CIO of VAG India. Welcome, Mahendra. Mr. Vaibhav Khandelwal, cybersecurity evangelist and regional head of India and ASEAN for F5 Network. We are looking forward to thought-provoking insight and creative analogies for that from you that will bring to the table. Vaibhav and Man, welcome to this session and thank you so much for joining us today. Also, let me take the opportunity to appreciate the contribution by our core member Kiran for arranging this session. It's now time to have a special mention to our core members Satish, Shashank, Srinivasan, Jagdishwaran, and Anil. Team, request you to share your thoughts and your active participation during this session. And finally, time to hand over this dash to Hers Kaur. Hers need no introduction, founding member of CyberGurukul. Hers, request you to take this over for moderation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think amazing context setting already done by Vijaya. Half of the job is already done here. And yes, as he said, the contribution of the Cyber Gurukul core members, including Kiran, Shashank, Srinivasan. We also have some initial 30 members joining us today, Prince, and I think Dominic was also about to join, Radhakishan, and anyone whom I'm missing out. Welcome to Cyber Gurukul. Vijaya, of course, let's not forget you. All of you are equal pioneer in every aspect of Cyber Gurukul. And we are really geared up to, take another insightful journey today, to understand the impact of AI in cyber defense. Is it a double-edged sword? And before we do that, let me now take the privilege to do the best part of the job that I feel. And that is introduce Cyber Gurukul, and for some of us, also reintroduce it. Cyber Gurukul, the modern Gurukul, where learning and enabling both go hand in hand, driven by our passion, our ambition for the fast growth while balancing giving back to the society. Our aim to be the cybersecurity storytellers and consultants, and together enable, engage, empower. Together bridge that gap between business, cybersecurity as a fraternity, and community at large. And we will continue to do that because we get such encouragement and support from all the extended family that has also joined us here. So a very good evening. Hope, like Vijaya said, you enjoy the rains, the monsoon, and also the monsoon of AI that we are going to do today. And at this point, also, let me take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speakers, Mr. Vaibhav Khandelwal and Mr. Mahendra Upadhyay. Mahendra, Vaibhav, thank you so very much for joining us today. You simply would not have an idea the kind of excitement we have to leverage your experience and understand how we can come out of this weaponization of the AI. And I must also mention, I know both of you had an extremely hectic schedule, but you somehow managed to take out time and grace our platform. It definitely means a lot to us. So why don't I do one thing before we actually start off with the session? Why don't we hear a few words from them? Mahendra, why don't I start with you?
Hi. Hi, Harsh, and everyone from the CyberGurukul team. Thanks very much. I think, rightly said, I think it's rainy season gonna start, and I think it's raining a lot in this COVID time, the cyber attacks, the digitization, and and think of not actually where tried to uh, we have tried to go into certain, or we have tried to cross our boundaries the way we used to see things before COVID. And in an order, actually, we have done fantastic job, I think, across the industries where people have used this opportunity to go more digital, how they can secure their environment much better. But having said so, the more people have been flourished in the digital ecosystem, I think this has given another opportunities to the hackers outside, or the people, their whole business actually goes into the kind of threats, or posing the kind of a challenges to the organizations, and especially the community which we are talking right now. I think the kind of group we are having right now, whose job is to keep everything safe. When we talk about the safety and the cybersecurity, I normally put those things only into two buckets. One is reputation, and second is, I think, I go with the trust. So reputation is for the outside of the world, where actually if anything goes wrong, how your brand image or something got perceived into, how your clients think about, how your end users thinks about. And the internal side or inward side, when I see the security or the cyber defense into, it's all about trust. And I think each one of us, I think they play the kind of every interlocked chain when it comes to the security. It cannot just happen basis on the tools and techniques, but I think the people are most important in. But having said so, like we said, we have given enough data, we have generated enough data, and I think in so many different areas, the AI and ML is playing a vital role. And in this side as well, I think AI and ML has come in a very big, helpful kind of a friend, which is giving us certain insights, or which is giving us certain proactive, some kind of information, which enables us to protect both these sides which we talked about, be it the brand reputation or the application. If the trust is intact, our data, our applications, I think they all are safeguarded, and so we can deliver with much better quality, with the consistency and the kind of respect we deliver across the organization, across the different ecosystems, that remains intact. I think this is the starting line. I think when we go further in the discussions, we will delve into different areas of cybersecurity slowly and unlock the book. But I will look forward to hear something from Vaibhav now. So Vaibhav, over to you.
Thank you, Mayan. Thank you, Harsh, for setting this platform and for your opening remarks. As you said, I think there is a um, lot of work that we need to still continue to do around reputation and trust because of the way we see a new kind of attack vector. And while our topic today is AI in cyber defense, the context around why it is AI in cyber defense is because there is AI in cyber attack. And I think you need to fight fire with fire is what we are seeing increasingly, that how do you determine if the traffic that is really coming into you is human traffic and the traffic you really should be serving, or it is good or bad automation. And as cybersecurity practitioners, our real, a lot of time is spent in reducing the quadrant of what you don't know, right? We want to get more visibility. We want to be better aware. We want to make sure that that surface of things that may just come and catch us by surprise is constantly reduced, be it a zero-day threat or be it any kind of an insider threat or a challenge. And because of that, we have a large set of technologies, people and organization to manage, a lot of also reporting to take care of. And with that, the complexity only increases of how to make sense of all the data that is coming in and how to quickly take a meaningful action on it to continue to continue to maintain that reputation and trust in the organizations. So like Mahen said, I think as we get the context more, we will like to share with you some of our insights and learning. More so for me, I'm very keen to learn from this esteemed group of practitioners to understand what challenges you may be facing and learn from you what principals like us could be doing better. But as a practitioner, as someone who's passionate about cybersecurity for over a decade now, I'm really humbled to be part of this discussion today, and look forward to all the insights and questions that will come through the next hour. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mahendra and Vaibhav. I think really privileged that we could learn from each other today, and I can see there is already the rain of those insights coming up. And I think lovely trailer in a way by both of you. Thank you so much for that. And yes, of course, we will be understanding the impact of AI in cyber defense. There are two sides of the story that we will be covering today. Uh, with the reign of cyber attacks, as our esteemed veterans have already indicated, it's all about trust as well as the brand reputation. And what is AI, helping us, and where being a friend to us, and where is it contributing in augmenting this next gen attacks is something we will dig deeper and also find the road ahead. But before we do that, let us, like every time, set the ball rolling and, start with the story and with the why. But before we do that, when I first think about the role of AI in the business, this is something which actually comes in my mind. And for those, who have joined us first time, let me share you that Mr. Meer Singh, who is my 3-year-old adorable nephew, you can see his sweet, naughty smile. He is, the brand ambassador of Cyber Gurukul, and most of the time he welcomes each one of us. This time you can see he feels so powerful and happy with the Spider-Man. And I must say, by the way, his on a lighter note, his favorite superpower actually is Hulk. He always keeps on saying, "मैं Hulk हूँ." So, what does, on a similar lines, business feel for AI? Depicting this image, I would really encourage our audience, our core members, to speak up before we can also take, Mahendra's and Vaibhav's inputs here. I think, Vijay, you have already unmuted yourself and you're smiling.
No,
I can have you started.
So, this business, the way he supports, okay, every kids or every business want, or there should be a superpower in fabric, okay. But if we see business and AI as a superpower, business is growing and we are attached to AI. So it will give you empowered or feel that you can go if you are a startup. Okay. With AI, you can be very, very powerful. Maybe that comes with some responsibility and all, but you can take on head on with established and create instructions for which you are looking for. So that is the power of AI in positive sense, and I can relate to the message which you try to give to this photograph.
Very interesting, Vijay. In fact, business does feel powerful with AI, those superpowers to scale up and be confident. Totally, interesting thoughts out here. Anyone else would like to join us here? You can also message if you want.
A participant, you can unmute yourself.
And you can also send us a, put up on chat. Kiran, why don't you, continue before we take others?
Sure, why not? So, am I audible, Harsh?
Yes, very much.
So, I was just looking at some stats around on the internet traffic globally. So, around, if I was looking at 50% of the traffic is on the internet is coming through bots, and 25% of that or 50% of the bot traffic is actually a back traffic. So I think it is so almost if I do that calculation, it is 1/4 of the traffic is through bot, and which is a back traffic. This is and we are talking about humans battling with this thing, and it is never going to be possible. Humans cannot battle with machine at such large scale. I think that is something which we really need to look at, and that's where AI is going to help as a savior for all of us in terms of, because it is not only about detection, it is about remediations, automations, and that's where we expect AI to help us.
I think quite extensive inputs, and another very critical, power of the AI augmenting the defenses of cybersecurity, if I must say. And like you mentioned, yes, we are using AI to make cybersecurity much more proactive, intelligent, not only in terms of the detection and visibility, but also in terms of those remediations. And those automations definitely help out there. And I think very interesting stats that you mentioned about the 25% internet traffic being the automated bots, the bad traffic. So I think that also shares the other flavor, the other side of the story. But I think we'll definitely come back in detail. Our speakers would help us out there. Thank you so much, Kiran, for this. And before we continue, anyone else who would like to share their thoughts on message or unmute themselves and share?
Yeah, this is Jagatishwaran.
Hi, Jagdish.
So
How are
yeah,
you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah.
Yes, please.
So I can share like business always depends on something like superpower, something very related to Superman. So Superman always helps people. Here we can relate to business, like whenever there is a tragic scenarios comes up. So he just moves around here and there and just pick up good things, and he just kick out the bad things. So same way I can able to relate how he can help the business by removing all the bad traffic, and he can just help us by allowing the good traffic. So that's how I can relate by in a clearest way. That's what my interpretation over here. Yeah.
I think that was definitely a wow factor. In fact, I could see even Mahendra smiling for this. Yes, I agree totally. AI and business, the kind of role sometimes is that of a superpower, handling those tragedies and those, critical, difficult moments. So yes, Jagdishwaran, very much AI is helping the business in very critical aspects in terms of safeguarding. I think Mahendra, you may want to, pitch in before we take others. You're on mute.
So yeah, right. So I think another synopsis of kind of just looking at this picture, it gave me a different look altogether, which is possibly if I'm being a CIO CTO, actually, I'm trying to look at my CISO team, and I'm thinking possibly they are possibly overestimating the AI than the real business problem. Basis on this picture, I will give you one thing. I don't know how many people are. I've spent close to decade plus around the analytics side of the world when I was part of firms like SAS and Alexa, and we used to solve the big data issues using analytics and something. Here as well, when we talk about the AI and ML, what it does, it tries to understand the patterns from the data sets or the data which is coming, like Kiran said, or Vijaya said, and some other people said, the traffic has gone enormously high, and definitely by manual ways or by some bit of automation ways, it's difficult to understand that. But you need to understand one more thing as well. These the kind of threat people actually which are posing for the reputation. They're always one step ahead of the curve. That's why we detect. You know what I mean? We try to prevent. So that's where actually the interesting fundamental things are coming in. So AI and ML can learn what the data is trying to feed you, or what the data is trying to teach you, how you can train your model sets. So though the AI gives us a great amount of efficiency around millions or billions of actually records coming in, you don't have to look manually, but it also poses some kind of a limitation that certain white spaces you cannot look. So the new ways of actually the threats or detections are coming, where these hackers are trying to teach you what they want you to teach or learn. And they want to goof up or go under the threshold, so actually they can invade into. So I think invasion, crowd surfing or crowd turfing, actually the kind of things are coming in, or poisoning your system with certain things while you're trying to tackle a different set of issues which you are thinking is an issue possibly is different. In a different note, I think I am expecting that some of the players around different systems, it can be firewall, NGOV, or DDoS, or different, multiple things are there. Can they look differently? Rather than the traffic coming from outside to inside, why not actually they can fingerprint what is my organizational behavior fingerprint is. Whichever is not matching with that, possibly a threat. I think that's a flip the coin in the AI ML. Actually, what I think people, everybody is gung-ho about actually how I can use for the larger thing for the AI or the ML. Sometimes the business problem or the question is small. I'm trying to save my reputation. And like I said in the very first statement, the trust. So let's say Vaibhav is there, I'm there, Kiran is there, and Vijay Anand is there, and we are using the similar kind of tools or applications. This is not something that we are using billions of different tools and techniques, right? We teach each other, right? We learn at the job, at the ground. And basis on that, if I can fingerprint what is the right or the trusted fingerprint is there and try to avoid the negative possibility is that right now what people are trying to do, they're trying to solve the problem from the huge amount of threshold which is coming from here and trying to learn when somebody's reputation is already gone, the evasion is already happened, or the actually the kind of a you say malware or the spam actually already hit the network, and they say, okay, I learned now this is the spam, I will try not to happen this again. What if the other side of the people are smart, they will not use the same fingerprint or the same thumb impression again. What easiest is, you are in the business, you know how you are using your application, how you are using your data, how you are moving your traffic around. That fingerprint is very much, you are known for us. Why not actually you can safeguard that, and whatever is not into that boundary, you try to fence that out. I think so. Let's flip the coin and possibly try to put the configuration or the policy in such a way. First, you know your business, what you're trying to safeguard. Then going after the kind of buzzwords that use this way or that way. So that is what my simple take is. I think another way is actually where the companies are very client focused, customer focused, and they are also available on social. I think they need to be worried about their social reputation as well. I think that's where the bots, like somebody mentioned, I think it goes like maniac you cannot think of. I think one simple connotation I can draw from here, though I'm old, so I'm going back there. Though the new version of movie was there. If you remember the movie The Matrix, the original one, I think it looks like the same. When you see something in the real life, I don't want anybody to see that, but I have seen the ransomware in one of the organization. I have seen long back. I have encountered only two. One was the Nimda virus. I don't know how many of you remember that. It's early 2002 or something was that, right? And the ransomware recently. We have so many protective policies, firewalls, NWOD, DDoS, everything was there, I think. Once it hit, the data couldn't get recovered. People lost a lot of data. The same happened at the time of the Nimda. So what I'm trying to say, you learn your business priorities and you try to fence around that rather than actually what is happening in the outside of the world. Definitely we can learn and we can teach each other. But I think we all have seen this. And if this community comes together and says this is how actually we are joining hand together, I think we can very well help it out.
I think Mahendra, you have put some very thought-provoking, points out also over here. Are we really overestimating AI? Okay, that is a superpower, but every superpower has its limitation, and that is something which we need to be well aware about. Also, adding to it, a very critical point on the current approach to addressing cyber threats. We have been doing it very much reactive. So definitely. Vaibhav, you have to do quite a bit of weightlifting in explaining us how we can break the silos of those multiple security tools, which needs to now give us that one insight, one story, that platform-based story, and at the same time become much more proactive in those terms. So Vaibhav, we will definitely deep dive into the other side of the story. But before that, let us also hear how you would like to depict this image. Yeah, sorry, please.
Yeah, so I think it's a very illustrative image of what we expect out of a technology versus what it typically delivers, right? And I think Mahendra made a very good point that are we overestimating AI? And as someone who's sort of looking at and talking to several organizations who have challenges due to automated threats, and then looking at how in reality then we are solving it, be it for a major bank or an e-commerce or a gaming organization, I think it's more like Spider-Man standing next to Batman, perhaps, right? Where someone who's got very real world grounded powers and who's got there's Bruce Wayne, and then of course there is Peter Parker, who's got these special powers because of what he's got with the labs. But the role of the security team is actually as a co-author and a co-partner in a deployment, rather than leaving it to what AI can do by itself. And the reason I say that is exactly to what Mahendra said, that what if the problem we are solving today is not existing tomorrow? What if actually the threat vector changes? And that is actually what happens, right? I mean, we are in a business where we are typically doing whack-a-mole, where a problem comes, there is a fire burning, we look after it, and there's a fire burning again of a different kind, of a different nature, and there is no real silver bullet. But what we find, at least, or what I would like my submission is that you need technologies which is just not a software or a technology in your environment, and then you are left with to hire a number of data scientists to make sense of that. You need a partner, or you need a partnership, or you need to build that capability, let's say that, within the organization, where you have, of course, ability to detect these behavior anomalies based on mouse movement, based on keystrokes, based on a lot of behavior biometrics that can now be gathered. But then making sense of that data in real time to be able to take a decision that, is it really a bad bot or is it a good bot? And what should I do with it at this time, or should I let it go? And one of the reasons I say that you need that kind of counter-fencing or measures is because you want to make sure that whoever is the adversary trying to come into your environment just finds it too difficult and too expensive to keep coming to you and go somewhere else. And that's really the logic, right? I mean, they are coming to our site or our environment because we have something of value, be it a financial transaction, be it inventory, be it a promotion, or be it our data. And we need to make it so difficult for them to come inside that just go somewhere else with all their tools. And the other side of this picture is, of course, what happens if you have a superhero or a super villain, right, with dark powers, and what do you do then? Because that's what's happening now with a lot of open source tools available out there, where you can quickly actually mount a DDoS or a large scale entry into an environment, looking like using device farms, etc., and using a lot of AI and ML, which is available out there for free, which is available through GitHubs and which is available on the dark web. So this, I think the battle will just continue. There's going to be a sort of a more, I think, intense set of cybersecurity challenges we will see. And I think it will become more of a business problem. If you look at the global news around one of the biggest acquisition in news around Twitter, I mean, half the thing just hinges in around how much automated traffic is there. Are there bots using Twitter? And if they're using it, how much of it is really known to management, what they've declared? And that is the scale of this problem, right? I mean, the smartest brains are also trying to see, okay, how much of my traffic is really good traffic versus bad traffic. So I think that those are some thoughts that I can think of to what Mahendra mentioned, as well as from the picture you put up here, Harsh.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav. I must say you have really thrown light on the whole story, the much needed story, quite extensively and in a very interesting manner. And right, as you said, security needs to be the co-author and co-partner. Maybe, what we are doing is, while the adversaries are misusing AI, we are maybe abusing AI. And that is something we really need to think on. Let's not forget the evolving threats, like Mahendra and Vaibhav mentioned. There are threats which is a story today, which may not exist even tomorrow. So we need to also keep such critical aspects in mind. And it's equally critical to bring those, not only the capabilities or the work or the value, but that value stream in itself, which can have those measures and intelligence to explain us what is a good versus a bad bot. And of course, fire versus fire is what we'll have to do currently, as in these terms. We will be discussing in details about the scale of problem just in few minutes. So just, maybe to sum up what we have discussed now, and then we will be digging deeper is, of course, AI big, does help us with some big promises. The promises to scale up the business with speed, with, breaking the silos within the IT ecosystem, helping us with creating that visibility across the dark data. We are also using AI much more in terms of making cybersecurity much more proactive and intelligent. But Like any limitations to a superpower, there are limitations to the AI. Are we overestimating AI? And that is what we will be digging deeper. And also, let us see through the eyes of another side of the story. This whole situation, I must say, is well depicted by the Forrester survey, which was done last year with 425 CISOs and CIOs. Let us now get into understanding how this next gen landscape or the next gen cyber threat landscape looks like. With the increase, the augmentation of defenses using AI by the defenders, it has same been the story for the attackers. And they have been able to increase the successful bot attacks as per measure of the respondents that we came across through this survey, which means there is a rise in the frequency, rise in the complexity, and there is a heavy impact of the pandemic also in this story. We will definitely digging deeper into the story, but it is saddening to note that the confidence, that sufficient preparation to defend against this next gen defenses only by the 26% of this respondents. Let's not forget, like Vaibhav mentioned, the scale of the impact of this attack. The business impact is not only in terms of those business revenue, the financial impact, but like mentioned by both of them, the reputation, the trust. It's all about the trust. And because of that, there is also the decline in the customer retention and really frustrated internal employees. Vaibhav, how well do you concur with these stats? And let us now dig deeper into this side of the story as well.
Yes, I think at a macro level, yes, definitely. The stat that Mahendra mentioned at the beginning was that around 1/4 of all web traffic is actually bot traffic, and that is sort of the baseline that no matter what kind of organization or business you are in, there would be some kind of bad bots which are coming in. And the question is it really a significant threat for me to even spend time on to look at? But there are certain sectors where we find a lot of automated and bad bots. And then there are 4 key sectors, at least, that we've been engaging in across Asia Pacific and India, where we see large amounts of automated traffic coming into their environment. E-commerce is one. Gaming is another one. There is a lot of automation we are seeing on banking and fintech. And then, of course, on travel and hospitality as things open up. And the reason I'm talking about these sectors is because we see over 80% of all traffic is bot traffic at times in some of these organizations. Recently, we're working with sort of a mid-sized e-commerce company, which is in the business of limited edition shoes and limited edition apparel based out of New Delhi. And we saw 80% of all their traffic was actually bad automation. And at every new shoe drop, it would really go high, increase their AWS costs massively. And a lot of times after the sale would end, they would actually manually look at similar addresses where the orders were placed, and they actually had to cancel those orders. Now, it sounds like, why is automation a bad thing if fraudsters are using it to buy more inventory? The reality, at least for this particular organization, was that they wanted to give their community an equal chance to buy the limited inventory they are selling. They don't want someone to buy it and then resell it, right? And this is something which we see in major other platforms as well. And that's where they were looking to get visibility into it. And similarly, the challenges around what you said, frustrated employees. Yes, we see security practitioners are really, getting tired of this whack-a-mole of, trying to do this post forensics type analysis of what happened, where was the transaction, is it the same person, are all my transactions coming from defense colony, is it similar sounding names, should I cancel them, etc. Right? So for a mid-sized company which does not have major data science teams, cannot invest into a lot of people to look into it, it needs some kind of assistance to make sure they have visibility into this kind of bot traffic. And there are several other challenges, Harsh. We're working with a fintech company where they launched a new super app, and it was a very simple use case. They wanted customers to download, play a game, and if they play the game well, they will get 20 rupees in their wallet, and then they can use that 20 rupees to buy a medicine through the super wallet, right? So very, very simple use case. But that gaming functionality was getting abused big time. And people were actually finishing the game in the time which was actually less than what the game could be played in. So there was a lot of scripts and automation being used to finish that game and then get this 20 rupees behind it, right? So that's another example. And if I take it outside of, say, the Indian context, but in the region, there are customers, or there are actually organizations which have a lot of paid content on the web, and they only want people to pay for their content and come and then read. But they had, and this is one of the biggest newspapers in Singapore, they had a lot of their content being scraped and put on Chinese sites to read for free, which they wanted to stop. So scraping is a very big challenge in automation. Inventory hoarding is a challenge for e-commerce. Account takeover and carding remains a major challenge. And I can give you on and on many such stories of how automated traffic is befuddling security practitioners, because it looks like real traffic. It is doing everything what your WAF checks for, and it is still bypassing those root sets, because we call it that it's the abuse of application that's going on. It's the application level abuse using scripts and automation that is quite rampant right now. And there are many such stories, Harsh, to share. But just to corroborate that what the data is seeing is some of the evidence that we are finding in the interaction communication we are having with various enterprises.
I think yes.
Just I want to add, Vaibhav has highlighted very good point that these numbers have been manipulated. So 20 rupees story is one, and as Mahendra managing entire advertisement, the ratings and all. Okay, so these are so sensitive because these numbers are very useful at times, and if we are not sure and some bad elements come into this picture, so that shows the urgency how AI can help us, and if that is inflated or inflated, we have to be secure that bad actors should not come in.
Very much, Vijay. I think you did quite well mention about, how this sensitive data, which really will not create the impact for the business, but I think maybe also from day-to-day level for all of us, definitely, AI, we need to stop overestimating it. And like Vaibhav mentioned, we need to also find ways to secure it. And I think Vaibhav, I must say, what a storyteller you are. I think Vijay also appreciated some very interesting stories into the scraping and the inventory hoarding, account takeover. In fact, Mahendra had also shared one of the incidents on data poisoning. I think some interesting stories, but very critical to understand the impact. And let's not forget the impact, of these automated bot attacks, and which is being, leveraged by these adversaries, is almost in every industry. And I think e-commerce, gaming, banking, and fintech, travel, I think it covers almost major of the industries. So I think, yes, very, very critical. So Mahendra, Vijaya did cover up quite a bit of, the sensitive data and the kind of, landscape that you would also be having. And keeping in mind, especially the last 3 years, the impact of pandemic or the COVID, and balancing that CIO, CISO shoes with this kind of next gen attack. Maybe you can throw some light on this part as well.
There are actually, I just before saying something, I think we can talk a lot technical, but I think I believe in you need to touch the things which impact the business users or the end users directly in a very common language. I think in a way, 1 second.
Sure.
So in a way, actually, I will tell you what has happened in the COVID. We didn't want to disturb our business as usual, right? And at the same time, we want to let the end user to do their job fantastically. At the same time, to the security team or the infrastructure team or cloud team, we have given the mandate as a CIO, CTO, that don't overshoot your budgets, but ensure that the security is intact. Your SLAs or deliveries for the end mile supplies or the inventories are intact. In user experience is also not deteriorated. I think every statement, if you read, actually, it is asking for some other investment or some other things to do, right? But the first year was something like that. Because if you talk about any of the businesses except the digital payments, I think everybody was actually facing a difficulties or challenges there. Then the second time came in when we tried to settle down and we understood what exactly we have to do or we have to do to ensure that this like some of the slide, I think in the very beginning into the slide, you said new normal or something, right? I don't know whether it's a new normal or possibly a kind of a phase actually, which will pass. But it gave us a different learning altogether as well. That country like India, I can talk about India only, where the bandwidth is not so good like possibly Vaibhav might be seeing in Singapore. Here, and I'm amused actually and very, very excited to see that how all parts of the country actually, maybe it's good actually that we got some good mobile penetration before the COVID hit to us. I think work from home has delivered fantastically. But at the same time, if you see the kind of digital frauds have kicked in India, not only on WhatsApp, not only on Paytm, not only on Amazon, but Myntra. I'm not just taking this name brand, just mute them whenever you want to, please. I'm not using for them. I'm just trying to say any e-commerce platform you talk about, any bank you talk about, any payment gateway you talk about. Gaming is the simplest actually, where the people are hooked up. They just got some kind of fatigue at that moment. You just ping them, and possibility is that you are getting to the way actually you want to deal with that. But look into it, I think. And in the cyber crimes and cyber threats, I think if you look in a data wise, I think it's a big industry. The worldwide, I think by 2025, if you talk about people like Gartners or Fitch or some other people, they have forecasted already that it's going to be a $10 trillion economy. If it's a $10 trillion industry, then you can think the people who are sitting other side of the table. I think I appreciate them actually. They are possibly as smart than us, if not less. So I think we have to be wise always, all the time. But at the same time, I think a couple of challenges we faced, and that is something I will talk about with respect to the talent. I think in the cyber security side, we have a lot of people who talk about, we have a lot of journalists who talk about, we have a lot of forums where people come and appreciate. On the ground, if you talk about the hands, actually the people who can really make their hands dirty, I think I see there is a scarcity. I can take one name and possibly Vaibhav is nodding in that, and I'm happy to say that. In the firewall sides, there are prominent 4 or 5 players are there. And something goes wrong, I can tell you, they also sweat like anything actually to solve that one single policy where it goes wrong. They try to fix one, they mess up other 3. I think so talent and people actually who really knows actually what they're trying to solve is a big thing. And I think we require a good amount of training around the cybersecurity for them. People should understand that it's not just a kind of a role, but I think it's kind of a very big stake kind of a role in any organization where it's not just about the policies. It's just not about some audits or something, but it's like a 24/7 kind of a job where you have to be smart all the time from the people which are sitting other side of the fences. And their money is all about beating you just one time, and you have to be always win 100 times in every moment. So I think I will first vouch for the talent, not the tool. And if we have the right people actually on place, then possibly we already have all the AI enabled things or something, because this AI and something is coming from some big brands or the big organizations. They possibly know actually what they have developed. Possibility is that they have developed with a segment of 2 or 3% of the data sets. What when you deploy on the organization front, that's where actually it sees the real traffic. Possibilities are there, they are running and they're detecting the right things. I will try to take one example. Let's say any of the email exchange server you might be using, right? You have a spam folder or something. You have focused folder, you have non-focused folder, or you have social appearance something, but still in your focused inbox, how many times you see actually the spams or any kind of a fraud alert or some kind of link actually creeps in? I will say almost every time when they want to. So what I'm trying to say, these boundaries are not open. And if you see the cyber security side, the players actually which are talking about next generation antiviruses, next generation firewall systems, next generation DDoS systems, they're all in cloud nowadays. Actually, you talk about any solution, right? Then what they are learning possibly. So possibly on paper, on theory, it's good, but I think every organization requires certain set of people. And it's no more the job of 2 or 3 people in every organization to safeguard the whole security aspect. It's a serious business. It has to be taken into the serious consideration the same way we take any other department, like the cloud team, or like, let's say, you can say the analytical team, or you can say the core operation team. I think it's time actually that you require a core security operation team as well, 24/7, not just the technology. And I will agree with what Vaibhav said a few minutes back, and Vijayanan said, you may not be able to hire the data scientist to start with, I think, but you can very well, and we can very well hire, or you can very well train the people who can understand the trends. And based on the trend, they can make it out what is good for my organization, what is bad for me, where actually I need to be alert. And last part, I think it's about communication. Sometimes when these kind of situations or these kind of things happen in the organization, what requires the most important is the communication, how you communicate. If you can communicate in a very right manner, with the very informative manner, I think you can solve a lot of the problems. It's not that within the moment actually the whole organization is infected. It's just somewhere. It's the same like we have seen in the COVID virus, right? Safe distancing, mask up. I think these are the things in the organization as well. Each one of us, I think, are responsible for that trust part. If we not do anything wrong, then the fences we have put there, right? The tools, the AI, I think they can do the fantastic job. So I think basis on that, I will stop on the kind of very simplistic manner what I see, or I want actually every organization to do, and that's where it requires investment. And I think this kind of forums play a vital role where actually we can come, we can discuss with each other, and possibly we can come on WhatsApp, we can come on LinkedIn, and if sometimes some people are facing challenges, they should not feel that they are alone in the world to facing a problem. It's just a call away. Somebody can just wake up, or somebody can say, hey, I'm there to save you, and let's work together to make this problem go away from your network or from your data or from the family. I think fantastic, and thanks for everyone around joining this.
Thank you so much, Mahendra. Before, yes, Vijay, I think you want, please take the honor
So
to
Mahendra has appreciated the effort of this forum. Really thankful to that, and that is the main agenda of this forum, to take this forward. Yes.
very much, Vijay, and thank you so much, Mahendra. And that's definitely what we also aim to do as a simplified and a unified story as a cybersecurity kind of an centric community. And I must say, you have very much kind of told us the whole forensic of what's the story today. So thank you so much for that. Uh, in fact, you have put all that magnifying glass of the people, process, technology, and covered each piece for us. But before going into that, yes, the impact of the COVID to scale and innovate with work from home has been a big challenge. Along with that, balancing act between the business continuity, the user experience, and the security measures which needs to be taken. Not forgetting the kind of skill shortage that we have. Not forgetting that this is a time where we really need to shift from this product based to a kind of a platform based security. Of course, that is something which becomes quite critical. And I think Mahendra also very well put forth the points on creating that common language and communication and the awareness for this. So I think that very much covers of what is exactly we need to do today. But Vaibhav, let's come back to this. There are some big promises that the other side, that is we need to kind of fulfill for Mahendra. So what would you say, keeping in mind the kind of stories, the deluge of automated attacks that we are facing, what is the road ahead, both in terms of the tool as well as how do we exactly bring that end-to-end bot management kind of a program as well, please.
Great, yeah, and I think very, very fair points, Mahend, on uh, one, the lack of skills, right, and the fact that yeah, you need very good skill sets, not just within your own teams, but also within the practitioners or the principles of the technology that they're offering. And totally point taken. I think the investments which need to go in just making sure talent is actually learning, relearning, even unlearning at times to be able to look at problems from a new mindset is very important, and certification programs play their role. But in terms of really helping and augmenting an organization, I think you mentioned about several technologies now being on the cloud, and I think that is a reality of how the flexibility is required, or as applications go on the cloud, as applications become a multi-cloud environment, the security also needs to be in that multi-cloud environment. And that's one of the reasons, the macro sort of trend driving that. And as applications go in a multi-cloud environment, you need to make sure that, yeah, they are secure, but you also have a partner which has not only the technology, but also the skills. And forget bots, even something as simple as a firewall. There's a difference between people who can decide and buy a firewall because of compliance, and a different group of people who can really implement and take traffic to a blocking mode and negotiate with the application team to have the security policies in place, right? So there is a internal maturity of the security function that happens over time, and as the power sort of rebalances between what the application or business team is trying to drive versus what we are trying to do for the reputation and trust for our organization. But as we go on that continuum, right? I mean, so I have a firewall, but I still have these challenges now. So what? And I think that's where you're asking, Harsh, that, okay, how do we go after any kind of a program which helps us in creating a mitigation against automated traffic? So let's first understand where automated traffic comes in, right? Most of the automated traffic is usually happening at something which is point of value. In your own organizations, that would usually be the login page, the change password page, as well as the add a new customer page, right? So either there's a fake customer onboarding happening or someone using credential stuffing. If you provide a lot of information of value, which is, for example, if you are an aggregator, an e-commerce site with inventory of all kinds, then even your pricing of SKUs is of value. If you're providing goods and services for cheap with coupons, then that information is of value for competitors. And we see a lot of scraping, or for media organizations as well, right? So scraping or automation being used to scrape data remains one of the top challenges, which even the Forrester report highlighted. Then credential stuffing and account takeover and carding remain our other second set of challenges that we are seeing. And to get visibility into that kind of traffic, first is to look at, do you want to design your application in a way where you can collect some kind of behavior biometrics? There's a very good question which Nasim asked, that, okay, how do we know if PII data is not going on cloud? But the first thing to determine is that, do I even need PII data to know if it is human or a bot? If what I know and what I have is already breached, if my password is already taken outside and is coming through a script on automation, then what I need to actually detect is the behavior with which that is coming. Is someone using keystrokes, and the mean time taken to enter username passwords is actually how it should be? Or is someone using Control-C, Control-V, and automation and script, and a magic mouse just comes on a submit button and it's clicking there, right? Is someone using an emulator or a real device that they're coming from? So there are a lot of ways in which now technology allows us to query into the behavior and get better environment signals. And that is sort of the fundamental that many of the bot providers would provide, either as part of their CDN or WAF or as a standalone managed service. So I think that would be the first thing. Maybe you would want to evaluate certain technologies, see how they fit in, and then take a decision if you want to build or buy to have that kind of augmented defense. And that's the first part. Of course, many organizations embark on this journey, find that efficacy is a problem, find that false positive is a problem, find that I need to fine tune it, and I need some people from my principal or partner to help me manage this technology, right? And then that happens along the way with several technologies. But that is just to give you a lay of the land of how several organizations are evaluating and going in building a program around defending against automated traffic.
I think I must say quite a program to mitigate the automated traffic, and Vaibhav has definitely give us those initial way, or the first step in the journey to build this program. Let us understand what is that value that can be exploited by the adversaries. I think very good examples in terms of the customer onboarding, or those price points that can be exploited by the competition. And along with that, it is very critical to also understand the behavior detection. we need to ask these questions to ourselves, what I know and have, is it already been breached? So I think this is definitely how we can start the journey. Try to understand, those challenges. Is it around the false positives, the efficacy, the implementation practices? I think very much the first step. Mahendra, very quickly, maybe Vaibhav has already mentioned how we can start this end-to-end, bot program management journey, which can touch the different, parts, including, ensuring, of course, going on multi-cloud. Do you perceive any challenges that, you may want to discuss with Vaibhav currently?
So I think I touched upon all the areas actually where the things are. I think if you ask me that what area I want to discuss with Vaibhav, possibly it's a larger discussion.
Of course.
Because I will not discuss then the generic things. If I have to discuss with Vaibhav, I will be more specific in the areas possibly. I think one of the services I am looking forward to, and possibly if any startup is there, I will love to actually see that, which that the security framework review or the security framework architecture review kind of services. I think it's a lot there on the cloud architecture framework, inter-cloud, intra-cloud architecture, data center cloud architecture, application framework architecture. But I have hardly heard something around the security framework architecture review. And that does not cover only one aspect of it. If you ask me, few years back when I was reading something around the different layers of your information, I think in the question boxes as well, somebody said, my data is here, my data is there. Just try to understand one thing, and when you talk about in the security, your data is in the nuke. Everything is outside. And first thing after the data, it actually only comes to you. And when you reach to you, between you and them, there are multiple things are there. There can be authentication, authorization, there can be networks, there can be application level security, there can be firewalls, there can be antivirus systems, there can be file level security systems. There are multiple things are there. So it's not something actually how you can define. But question comes in for different kind of application. Are there any security frameworks available? I think generic things are there, but security frameworks is something which I feel it kind of miss right now, or maybe I have not come across those things. If you go to, let's say, in the cloud forum, because somebody put the word cloud, I think cloud is one area where people are going towards some maturity. 3 major players are there, or 4 major players are there. If you go to, I will take the name freely because I'm using them. I'm not endorsing them, but actually we have done a lot good work with them. Amazon, if you go to the AWS people, right? Anytime you face the problem throughout the year, you can very well ask them. I think it's available with the Microsoft as well. It's available with the Google people as well. They can review the whole architecture of yours, actually, how the applications behaving or exchanging information together, right? And basis on, they can always come how you can reduce your bills, or actually how you can go to from container A to container B, where the communication can be much faster, how you can use this way or that way, right? How you can use certain native services. The same way I'm asking in the security side as well, or the security framework as well, can somebody come and draw all the diagrams where different names which I have taken already, I don't want to repeat them again, how they exchange the information, actually where we have to put what. If the network framework is like this, then what policy I need to put outside for the world? What has to be considered? If somebody is coming up, I can name the people like Falcon or something. They publish so many dashboards or something. Why actually they cannot make out something like this is the most critical things for me, for my business, and only that can inbox to me? Why I have to read the whole dashboard? Or the kind of people can come. So I think for me, most of it boils down to a couple of things only: the talent and the focus. And then possibly, wherever we can talk anytime, actually, what I'm talking about. I'm having a Lambda architecture. What does mean? That for the business continuity side, somebody said, right? Can you give me an excuse? So this is one of the kind of side effect or the kind of best effect of the work from them.
Absolutely.
Of course.
We are taking him away from, we are keeping you away from him on a Saturday. So that's
Yes. So I'm saying this is also a kind of intrusion actually I'm talking about. So it's okay. But I'm saying that Vaibhav, if somebody will ask me, we are having the Lambda architecture, we have multi-cloud, we have the data center as well. Because I will tell you one thing, it's not about the bad thing about the cloud. The cloud is not cloud, I think. It's some marketing jargon somewhere. Somewhere there are physical machines there. So just understand. The data is not in the cloud, okay?
Absolutely.
So and if you really go to really good solution architects or enterprise architects, they can draw good design for you that where we have to go for the data center, you have to go for the cloud. Real estate may be costly, but in India, I think you might have heard hypervisors, edge data centers, scale data centers. They're coming in nook and corners everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So just see after 3 years what the cloud versus data center fight may actually end up.
True.
So I will not go there. Wise thing is still, do you have those kind of architects actually who can review, who can advise you the right thing? In the security side, I find sometimes very difficult.
You're right.
Even the big four, or sorry, just one more ago. Even if I will go to the big four people or big 5 or big 10 or big 8, I don't want to actually put them into the trouble with the discussion. They can come and do the audit. The audit looks the same like I did last year. If you see anytime the audits, the company who got hacked, they might have ended up doing the audits just 15 days back and nothing was found. Trust me on that.
Yep.
So for me, the requirement is the reviews, the requirement is the architect people, the requirement is the kind of expert actually who can give the best advices without any sugarcoating that you are messing up here. This requires investment. Otherwise, actually, you may work this way for 2 years, 3 years, nothing will happen. But the day will happen, the loss is like this. Second is, somebody can say, why you are putting 2 or 3 firewalls where actually you can work with the one and second actually can go in the application level, something like, and on the cost of that, actually you can hire 2 best experts who can solve the problem. Nobody is giving that. You will find most of the players, the security side of the people, especially I'm saying, I'm not to hurt anybody, especially in the sales side, that the sales guy, they don't know iota of the security.
Yes.
So I think that's a big problem for the industry. And I think the way the transactions, the volumes and the complexities are growing, the bots are growing. I'll just give you the example of bots. They're the positive sides of the AI as well. You know, the stock exchange, I think 65% plus traffic is all about the bots.
Yes. Yes.
So the things are good actually. What we have deployed in the robotic process automation side, the bots, they're doing wonderful job in the good. Thing is that somebody is using for the other side of the economy, which is the big economy, for their benefit. There's nothing wrong in that for their sake. It's about the ethics, right? Integrity, ethics, and how you perceive things. But it's an industry, right? So for me, we want those kind of experts sitting in this side as well, so they can think like that and they can advise on that. So I think advisory services, review services, or architectural practice services, I think they are badly required in this, and so some kind of training, some kind of talent building. Tools and technologies, I think they're fab. What I have seen 15 years back, from where we have moved on to, I think, one good light year ahead in terms of security. But knowing those aspects of things, I think we are now not so that good. 15 years back, people on the Unix side, socket programming side, they were fab. Now they are sitting in the product side, not in the captive side or our side where the business really happens. So I think we require those people back. That's only my notice. Maybe I didn't give in that. And we were happy to connect anytime. I think we can exchange numbers. I think we both might be there in the LinkedIn for sure. And we can discuss that. I think that's the requirement, that's the need is there.
Thank you so much, Mahendra. Yes, and then I wish I had answers to all your questions, but I think those are the big, hairy, complex problems really in security. And then you said it, a lot of the talent, technical talent that we have is actually gone so much on the application development side that we want to get people to get passionate about cybersecurity. They want to know that, you know, people on the cybersecurity side are on a mission. You can do good for the world, and you can actually have some of the best technical chops in helping organizations solve complex problems. So both from an advisory services and technical talent, yes, I think the industry could do a lot more It's very fragmented. A lot of the advisory services come in from the principals who are actually the providers of, say, only a firewall, etc. But security is so complex, right? There is data security, there's application security, there's infrastructure security, and there is API security now, which is all just part of the WAF. And then you put zero trust architecture on top, which you want for your multi-cloud. And then you say, okay, what about my identity and access management and my IAM, and what about privileged access? So there are so many aspects around people, information, data, infrastructure, and application security that you really need very good advisory services to constantly review and even maybe sign off and do a good cybersecurity assessment. I think in some industries it's good because they're regulated, right? What IDRBT wants a bank to do, that helps the bank to do the fire drill and help them. But unfortunately, it's not the same across all industries. And a lot of cybersecurity happens because of compliance or regulatory needs, which I think needs to become more normalized and needs to be adopted across industries, the best practices that we have within India. So not a straight answer really, Mahendra, but I recognize the challenge and the gaps that they're in the services side that we can build further on.
I think Mahendra, Vaibhav, these are some very good food for thoughts. And I must say, we should continue having these, frank conversations, realizing where we are today. Of course, this multi-layered security architecture that we need to bring about is a complex problem. But at the same time, like Mahendra mentioned, we recognized, Vaibhav recognized, to actually map business with technology and solve these business problems, we first need to make cybersecurity much more inclusive, palatable for all of us here. And of course, as much focus is going on the tools, we need to also come out from this tick mark kind of an audit review kind of a culture, kind of a process, to a proper a system and a culture around here. And definitely those gaps in terms of the architecture, in terms of the review, is kind of a constant work that each one of us has to do together as a team. So I think quite good takeaways for all of us. But before we end up, Vijay, I think we had just one question from Mr. Sanjay. Naseeb had a very interesting question which had already been answered. Have we answered
Yes.
Sanjay's question? Can you just check before we? Then we can have
Vaibhav
just.
or Mahendra, if you would like to take this question,
Yeah.
Sanjay has asked for PPI data. If you want, I can read it out.
If you can read it out, it will be helpful.
Yes, please.
Vaibhav has reverted to Sanjay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm getting the context right, because what Sanjay is asking is what happened.
Sanjay, if you can unmute and phrase these questions again.
Maybe he's dropped off.
So we wanted what happens to applications used by third party hosted on the cloud or the screening prospective candidate PPI data. So maybe the follow-up question of Nadeem.
Yeah, I think if the question is that PII data which is on your site it's accessed by another site, another partner of yours, I think they need to be coming via the right API gateway, and there needs to be security. If they're scraping that PII data, then I think you can get visibility and mitigate that. So we see both examples, we see both such scenarios playing out, not just say with the candidate data, but it could be other important proprietary data that you want to share. And there's a lot of backdoor entry right now, which is happening through first-party APIs, especially by fintechs. We see fintechs using credentials which customers have given them because they want to manage their money through the fintech. But the fintech is almost doing a low-level DDoS. They're doing 1,000 requests per customer per hour onto the actual banking site and taking a lot of PII data out. And the bank does not get visibility to that. So there is different kind of scraping challenges happening through APIs that we are seeing across the region. And I think this potentially is touching to that point, but perhaps there was a larger point Sanjay was making, but I think he has dropped off.
Yeah, another one area actually I just want to add what you said. I think in the PI side, I think if you say that larger context or things, let's say in Europe or in the US, actually, for the personal data protection, there are rules are there, right? The GDPR and something. In other countries as well, those such rules are there. I think those rules can play the part of it, actually, how you are passing, how you are using, how you are doing it. But having said so, I think The API framework is also the area which Vaibhav said in some way that the security frameworks are there for the APIs. But there are multiple other aspects are there. I think there is come that goes not on the API, before the API even, which is called the data protection and the data sharing. I think if your data architects are wise enough, they know actually how to hash them out, the information, and what information should be available on the API calls. I will go the third level into it because I just don't want to discuss the security aspects only. Who is accessing and using this data? Definitely, you might have given the access, right? NDAs, legal authorities, you might have signed the MSAs and everything, right? If something happens, why don't actually you secure your data? When I say secure, you insure the data. Also in those class, actually, you put the penalty so hefty that other party actually who is scrapping the data and coming to your side, they should be worried about their reputation first when actually they're touching your data. I think so the responsibility, like I said in the beginning, it is in this forum. Somewhere somebody is the client, somebody is the vendor, somebody is the supplier, somebody is the user. But ultimately, we are in this round table sitting together. It doesn't happen just by mistake. Accept it. Some bit of sincerity was missing, or somebody we couldn't thought through at the right moment. That's where this kind of things happen. But even if we have thought through everything and then something happens, then find out the other party, possibly they have missed something of their part. Let's say Vaibhav and Mahendra has come to an agreement. I will pass on my data to Vaibhav or the logs to Vaibhav to analyze something. And basis on that, actually, he will recommend some intelligence. What I'm giving, my data, right? It's my IP, right? I have generated it. What he is giving, only the insights. What actually he can mention for the technology or the people he is using to give me the insight. I can foolproof the contact in such a way that I am paying for the insight, but actually if some miss happens to it, he will be responsible for that thing. And that price, I can decide because I know what is the value of my data. So don't just leave on the data and the tools only in the periphery. Ultimately, it's a people and process actually they wisely use to devise the better ecosystem. And I will always recommend people that don't make any decision in the haste. Understand what the business need or the question you are trying to solve. And then put the full role play, put out A, B, C options all together, go into the complete merit of everything, and then you will definitely know with what loopholes or what known problem you're still going up in the market, or what challenge actually you're opening up for yourself. I think that's where actually you can solve it. The rest things is whether you are using cloud, whether you are using native services, in database services, multi-database services, or the collaboration of the data exchanges or something. Those are material actually. You might have heard about the services, something called data federation layers actually, where the multi-country data actually comes from the federation layer. People can use it process, right? I think the people have devised in such a way that actually they cannot leak it. I think so we can be sensible. But having said so, in the last time I'd say, data leakages, data hacks does happen. And even the people like Google, Amazon are not actually away from that in Microsoft. But having said so, what can get exposed and what the merit of, that you and me can very well decide with parlance of our organization, our business model, and our values.
Great, Mahendra. Definitely, just adding to it, I think with CyberGurukul and of course with not just us, so many of us, we will continue to having this kind of a constant, simplified, a unified kind of a story stitched around the cybersecurity with the flavor of people, process, technology, like we said. And this time we hopefully have brought that first step at least to fight against the weaponization of AI. We will definitely also address many such business problems together as a community. I think we stand united, we will definitely get that way ahead. So thank you so much everyone for joining us. But before we do that, Mahendra, Vaibhav, Vijaya, Kiran, and please your last words before leaving. Mahendra, please, let's start with you.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And do pass on the numbers.
Yes, I already have that in mind. I'm going to immediately do that. Both of you, don't worry. Yes, Vaibhav.
No, thank you. This was very insightful, and I like which was one of my objectives to learn by being here, and I learned a fair bit from the concerns and insights that Mahendra brought in, and also through your presentations. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of you to stay on this forum and roundtable to listen in. Give us a time of your Saturday, and to you, Harsh, Kiran, and Vijaya, to driving the Cyber Gurukul initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav. Vijaya, please.
Mahendra, very frank, and we would like to connect with you because you have insisted on framework. That is one of the roadmap which we are working on to Indianize cybersecurity and this framework. So we would like to work with you, and your contribution we would like to utilize. And Vaibhav, I have seen you have been very vocal and to the point answered the queries and highlighted the topic which was expected. So really appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijaya. Kiran, you would like to say last words before we wrap up? No worries. I think it's time to say goodbye for now. But yes, we will continue to learn and grow every time. We'll join back next, month, third Saturday again. And once again, Mahendra, Vaibhav, thank you so much. What an insightful journey we had, and definitely a lot of takeaways for each one of us. It shows from our smile. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.